Be bold. Be brave. Be extraordinary. Be vulnerable. Be real. Be curious. Be true. Be you. Welcome to Trusting Your Gut with world-class energy intuitive Katherine McIntosh, a show designed to awaken you to enjoy the process of evolving, have fun along the way, and learn to listen to those silent in-between moments. You are the expert of your own life, and nobody knows more about the next steps to take in your journey than you. So please, listen to your gut and discover what's waiting for you to explore. Here is your host, Katherine McIntosh.
All right, my magical friends, welcome to the show. I'm super excited about today's topic, and it's something that is near and dear to my heart. I think every topic is. So today we're going to be talking about anxiety. And I've been looking at this for a very long time now. I'm somebody who didn't really know what that word was, didn't really relate to it, but I definitely related to spending a good part of my life depressed. And I've watched since the world has radically changed and transformed, and it will continue to change and transform in all different ways. We never stay stuck. But what I have experienced and witnessed and worked with people from around the world is this concept of anxiety that we have normalized. And I want to offer you today a conversation that may just allow you to start looking at this topic from a different lens. Things don't change until we begin to question the validity of it. And I think we are in a day and age where we are starting to look at everything. Right? When COVID happened, we started to look at our values, what was important to us, and those extraneous relationships that were maybe hard to maintain, they might have gone away, and you might have awakened to taking care of yourself in a different way. And I believe that anxiety is a huge part of this. And so I want to offer you this sort of pearl of wisdom is I believe that anxiety is something we've gotten comfortable labeling that is actually suppressed awareness. And so every single one of us on the planet is aware. And some of us choose to dive into and cultivate and evolve and expand that awareness. And some on the planet choose to suppress that awareness or pretend they're not aware. But the truth is that if you have a physical body, and you are walking around living, breathing, and the cells of your body are changing 24/7, you have some capacity towards awareness. And those that are on the spectrum, they have a capacity for taking in loads of information all at once. And sometimes it can get overwhelming. So if you are somebody who has experienced what you will label as anxiety, if you start to flip the script and you start to recognize that your anxiety might actually be a capacity in awareness that you just haven't yet acknowledged. And so I know for me personally, I've spent over 2 decades working on myself, studying with shamans, hanging out in the jungles of South America, studying to get, my master's in somatic psychology, which I didn't finish, but I had an amazing education while I was there. And I am basically a junkie for evolution. And I'm so fascinated by how quickly we can evolve by recognizing old patterns, just kind of buying societal norms. And the truth is, if you're listening to this show, you probably don't fit societal norms. You probably are, not average. You don't like mediocre. And you are interested in cultivating the best you can be, because when you're the best you then have energy to make a difference in the world, to light up those that are around you. And those that are around you will want to be around you even more. So, this anxiety that you might be labeling is a form of awareness that's trying to come in to give you information, but it may not fit your normal way of receiving information. And so the way that I can sort of give you an analogy is, imagine you're in a crowd, and this might be overwhelming as it is, and everybody's speaking your language. So for this radio show, English, right? They're speaking English. But imagine you go into a crowd and you have 1,000 people speaking Japanese, right? Or Russian, right? Two languages that I really know nothing about. And you have this overwhelming sense of, I can't decipher any of this. And so anxiety is that way, is when you have a ton of information coming at you at once, but it's not through the channel that you can understand. It will feel confusing and overwhelming to your system. And really, what I believe is going on is that you are evolving, you're upgrading your nervous system, your body is trying to upgrade, right? We don't ever stay the same. What makes us stay the same is our thought patterns and our habits. And so when you begin to change your thought patterns, which the one thing that we are capable of changing is anything about ourselves. The things we're not capable of changing is everybody else's stuff. And so, if you've been working on yourself in a particular way, let's say you have wanted to improve your health or change your physical body, and you've spent 5 or 10 years trying to find the right solution to change the thing you're trying to change, and this might be hard for you to hear. The thing you're trying to change isn't the thing. It's not your thing, because you can change what's yours. You can't change what isn't yours. And we're all awake, aware, bright. We're smart. We're intelligent. We're educated. We've seen it all, right? And so when you've seen it all and you are doing your best to try to transform something, and you have not yet had the results you'd like to see in your life, then the thing you're trying to change is not your thing. And so anxiety is a great barometer for that you're out of alignment with your awareness. You're out of alignment with receiving information. You're out of alignment with the evolution that wants to happen. And so I know that anxiety is just an energy. So I've talked about this in previous shows. Fear and excitement, exact same vibration. Exact same vibration. We just label that vibration as fear if it's something unknown and feels scary to our nervous system or scary to us. We label it as excitement if we've done it before. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you are going bungee jumping for the very first time. You get strapped in, you're standing on top of a bridge, you're about to jump off. Terrifying, right? It's the vibration, this vibration that we label as fear. Now, let's say you've bungee jumped and it changed your life. It was terrifying the first time you did it, right? But your heart started pumping, your palms started getting sweaty, you were elevated in your energy, and you were like, oh my God, right? Labeling it as terrifying or fear, whatever you want to call it. And all of a sudden, you do that bungee jump, and that adrenaline rush, that exhilaration, that sensation, you just conquered something that felt like a fear. And you went for it and you're like, that was amazing. I'm going to do it again. So the second time you go to do it, you're like, ooh, I'm excited. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm excited. And you go and you jump off that bridge. We label things as exciting, same vibration, fear and excitement, but we label it as exciting when we have a frame of reference for that experience. You bungee jumped the first time, it was labeled as fear. Same energy coursing through your body. You do it the second time, you label it as excitement because you realize that it created an energy and a momentum and and like a newness. And newness is exciting. Unfortunately, we've gotten familiar or comfortable, right? Labeling things that we're unfamiliar with. The things that are new, we're like, oh, it's terrifying, it's scary. And you might want to ask yourself, okay, great. Yes, but when you take a step back, and we did this in my master's program in somatic psychology, is we call it the third party witness, where you take a step back and instead of labeling it as, oh, that person's afraid, or oh, I'm afraid, you go, wow, well, my heart's beating really fast. My hands are sweaty. My palms have a lot of energy to them. I can feel like a lump in my throat. So you start to witness, you name what is, not your interpretation of what is. And interpreting energies can get you not in trouble, but they can limit what you're capable of creating in the world. And so, this label of anxiety, which is an energy, right? We're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Anxiety is really, you don't know how to translate or what to do with the amount of energy that's coming at you. But I will tell you that most people, when they get in alignment with their awareness, and what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is when you start to acknowledge that you are extremely aware. Here's a simple example that you can sort of bring into your daily life as a practice is you think of someone and they call you. That's your awareness. You know you're going to get a good parking spot. That's your awareness. You get a sense to take a different route to work. That's your awareness. And so the more that you begin to acknowledge, wow, that was my awareness and I followed it. Awesome. And I want to encourage you the moments, because we'll do this in hindsight. We go, oh, I knew I shouldn't have done that. Or I knew I should have bought that lottery ticket. Or I knew I should have, whatever it is. And you go, oh, I knew it. That's your awareness. And you just simply ignored acting out on what you knew. And so anxiety comes in because you've gotten familiar or comfortable with dumbing your awareness down or pretending you're not that aware. So I'm going to give you an example from my life. Back when I was pregnant with my son, he was 5 months in my belly, and I was actually it's a long story, but I was pregnant with twins at the time. And, I didn't know if they were boy or girls, or I was going to do as to the best of my ability. I wanted to have a natural home birth. And something happened, like a giant fight between myself and my husband at the time, his dad. And I spent 2 days, and I had never, ever done this before. It was a big fight. Like, are we going to stay together or or are we going to separate? It was a big fight. And I remember laying in bed in fetal position, crying and trembling and shaking. And it was overwhelming, and I didn't know what to do, and I got done with a day of tears and shaking and trembling, my eyes puffy, running watery, and it was like, that's never happened to me before, and it was unknown. So my ego tried to grasp onto an explanation. What's happening? Oh, it's the fight between my husband and I, right? Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. That's why I'm feeling this way. And there was a moment during that day where I literally felt suicidal and I did not know what I was going to do. I was 5 months pregnant. I was terrified. I was like, this changes everything if we don't stay together. And, and it wasn't until the following day that I heard on the news that Haiti had had a pretty severe earthquake, and I had a pretty strong connection to Haiti. So back when I was living in Quito, Ecuador in South America, I dated a Haitian for a while. And I don't know why, I'd always had this affinity to Haiti, even as a little girl. Don't ask me why. Certain places in the planet, I always had this affinity towards places. And so he had lived in Haiti, and I just had this overwhelming sensation. And it wasn't until the following day when I realized that part of what my body was doing was my body was aware of the earthquake. I've talked about a story before where my dad had, I don't remember this time because my dad, before he passed, he had like 7 heart attacks and 5 strokes, or five heart attacks and 7 strokes. It was hard to keep track and we didn't really talk very much. My dad was the type of guy who kind of went off the rails, and once a year I would call him on my birthday and just tell him I love him and to thank him for donating his sperm so that I could have a life, right? And so this moment, I'm in Rome, Italy, and I have this overwhelming feeling. And I'm like, what the heck is going on with my body? And shortly after that, my mom calls and says, your father's had another. They weren't together. They'd divorced when I was 18, but your father's had another episode. And I'm like, oh my God, that's what was going on with my body. And so a lot of times we're walking around aware of someone or something happening on the planet. And let's be honest, there's a lot happening on the planet. 24/7. What is happening is insanity. And no wonder why our nervous systems are overwhelmed and we're like, it's anxiety. Well, I want to invite you to consider to reframe that conversation with yourself, reframe that conversation with your therapist, reframe that conversation with your children and your significant other or others, however you live your life. And when you begin to reframe and you go, oh, that feeling, that sensation again, it feels like, right? It's the symptoms of what we want to label as anxiety, but maybe I'm aware of something, because you might be aware of something. And when you get when you get that you are aware, I promise you, and I'm like sweating right now, which is one of the ways my body shows me, right? We're on topic or there's something to this conversation. I get goosebumps. I'll get like little things in my throat. My heart will palpitate. I'll feel like I got punched. There's all these different ways in which our awareness and our physical bodies are trying to give us the information that our brains may not know how to translate, but our bodies know how to translate it. And when you give your body permission to speak its mind, to be loud and clear, right? I always say, make it obvious, make it easy, make it fun. And when you invite your physical body to start to have a dialogue and a conversation with you, it will begin to change your life because you'll realize you're actually really aware. And anxiety just might be that there's this new level of energy, this new level of a vibration, this new level of a sensation coming through, and you haven't yet learned how to or been taught to translate that information coming in. So you say, oh, it's anxiety. And, I don't blame you. We haven't been taught. And so it's easy to say it's anxiety, pop a pill, go to the doctor, but it will change your game. It will change the conversation if you start to go, okay, I'm feeling that sensation again. I wonder what I'm aware of. And elephants, one of the reasons I think I've talked about this on the show before, but I have an elephant tattoo on my inner forearm, and I have elephant stuff all over my house because once you get a tattoo of an animal, when people go to give you gifts, they think of your tattoo. So I have gotten from all around the world, people from all walks of life. I mean, I'm looking and I see 4 elephants right now, and I have elephants everywhere. It's kind of fun. And elephants for me, the reason why I got this tattoo is for me back in college, back in grad school, I had a shaved head. I was a little bit of a rebel. Always been a little bit of a rebel. And the it is a good totem animal, right? So the elephant in that time represented to me the deity Ganesh, right? And Ganesh, it stood for remover of obstacles. And so my point of view is I had a pretty amazing childhood on a lot of levels. I had a great life, and I also had a very traumatic childhood on a lot of levels. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate. So on the outside, my family life looked pretty awesome. On the inside was a totally different story. And I always used to say, you never know what happens behind closed doors. And so this remover of obstacles for me represented that it doesn't matter what obstacles are in your path, you will be able to go around it, and that obstacle will make you stronger. That obstacle will make you fierce and make you a fighter and make you see the world in a completely different way. And I really resonated with that. And then later, I started studying elephants, and elephants are a fascinating animal. They have this capacity to feel a vibration through their feet of up to thousands of miles. Now, that would seem physically impossible. But back in 2004, when Indonesia had a tsunami that was quite devastating to the islands, the elephants went to higher ground. The elephants knew that there was a tsunami coming 3 days before the tsunami hit. Now, if the humans would have watched the elephants and said, elephants are aware animals, they can sense vibrations, they know something's happening, and most animals are aware. And guess what? We're animals as well. The human species is just as aware. Unfortunately, we've been entrained to shut off our awareness. We've been entrained that it's not possible to be that bright, that brilliant, that connected. And so some of you are extremely connected. You might have known about the earthquakes happening in Turkey, right? You might have known about the war about to happen, in the East. And so when you go, oh my God, I have anxiety, you immediately cut off what you are aware of. And so elephants have up to 8,000 miles around them, this capacity. And I truly believe, this is my own experience, I believe that human bodies, if you stop turning the dial down on your awareness, and instead you start to turn the dial up on your awareness, you can perceive energies of up to 10,000 miles around you or more. Now, for those of you listening, that might seem impossible, but I promise you, I have experienced it myself. I know firsthand, and I've watched a lot of my clients when they wake up to the fact that they are aware. And some of you have this brilliance with money. Some of you, it's with relationships. Some of you, it's with intimacy. Some of you, it's with the human body. Maybe it's with science. Maybe it's with animals. Maybe it's with the earth. But in some area of your life, you are 1,000 times more aware than you give yourself credit for. I'm going to say that again. Some of you are 1,000 times more aware of a particular topic or subject or energy than you give yourself credit for. And if you don't want to believe you're that aware, that you're that tapped in, then you will take the vibration of that awareness, like fear and excitement. You will take the vibration of that awareness and you will say, oh, it must be anxiety. And so when we come back to break, we're going to talk a little bit more about how you can start to flip the script, change the conversation in your head, sort of educate your children to not be so quick to pop a pill or label it as anxiety, and instead start to offer a different solution. So when we come back for the break, we'll continue this conversation. Thanks for listening.
OMTimes TV.
Do you trust you? Do you trust your body? What if the key to unlocking the weight, pain, suffering, fear, anxiety, addictions, traumas, and sorrows was already inside of you? Learn to love the skin you are in so you can create the body, business, and life you love. Everyone always says you can't explain what Katherine does, you just have to experience it. From Hollywood actors to New York Times best-selling authors to some of the world's wealthiest and most successful, no two experiences are the same. For private sessions, online courses, live events, and the latest book Jack Canfield calls Game Changer and should be required reading for everyone, go to KatherineMcIntosh.com. KatherineMcIntosh.com.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. OMTimes Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, OMTimes offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an OMTimes magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on OMTimes TV and broadcasting it across the extensive OMTimes radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. OMTimes. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
All right, everyone, we're back from break. Thank you so much for listening to this show. So grateful to all of you. And if you like this show, please hit the share button, share it with a friend, pass it along on social media. The more, the merrier, because it is time for you to wake up to your brilliance. This show is called Trusting Your Gut for a reason. So those messages and downloads and information that you get, they're real. And I say to so many people in my coaching practice and just with my clients in general, I say to them, you know, like if you think you're making it up, it's probably right on the money. We're not taught that we are that aware. We're not taught that your human body could possibly, for crying out loud, could possibly be able to perceive up to 10,000 miles around you at all times. So when I was in Rome several years ago and my dad had a heart attack, but my body was literally having the sensations that something was wrong, heart palpitations. So some of you that are physically struggling with your bodies, or you're having panic attacks, or you're, dealing with some heart issues, or maybe you're dealing with some hormone stuff, or thyroid, or thymus, you name it, right? We have a diagnosis for everything. And guess what? Diagnosis is simply someone's guess of what they think is wrong with you, because we've been taught that if we know what's wrong with you, then we can find the solution of how to fix it. But here's the deal. If you are taking medicine and it is not drastically improving your situation, the medicine is not the solution, because the problem isn't the problem. Does that make sense, right? And so anxiety is just the fact that you're slightly out of alignment with the truth. Nothing wrong with that. It's a great information. Sailors, they have compasses. When they're out at sea, they need to know where they're headed. And if they're just 1 degree off, they're out of alignment. They're not going to hit their destination. They're going to go somewhere completely different on the map. And it's the same thing with us, is we're tweaking the dial on our compass to get into the right alignment, to head into the right direction. And so if you're feeling anxiety in your life, it's just information from your body that you're not in the right place. And so if you're depressed, ask yourself, what would change your depression? What caused the depression in the first place? Are you keeping yourself stuck in a relationship that's no longer serving? And are you in a job that you don't like, but you're nervous if you quit that you won't have a paycheck? Are you staying in a career or a situation that's no longer serving you? A year ago, I started having pretty severe menopause symptoms, and I'm still going through it. You go through it for years, apparently. Yay. And the symptoms were really, really bad. And here's why: because I was out of alignment with me. But when I got myself back on track and I started doing what I love again, right? I've been successful entrepreneur for a while, and every so often we have to make those tweaks, right? We have to allow the evolution, and it's kind of like standing on top of a cliff, ready to jump, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is terrifying. And it's like, well, is it terrifying or is it exciting? Is it exciting to shift directions and do something new? Is it exciting to leave a toxic relationship and open yourself up to possibly a not toxic relationship? Right? I've spent the last year by myself, and it's been one of the best years of my life. I've faced a lot of challenges, and at the same time, I know who I am to a degree I had never experienced before. And it's been extremely, extremely refreshing. And so this is your invitation that anxiety is information that you are just off a little bit. So when you feel the anxiety, ask, what is this? Ask, what are you aware of? Ask, where are you out of alignment? What's the shift that you need to make? And look, you might be experiencing anxiety because of your relationship. That doesn't mean you have to leave your relationship. You might just need to evolve your perspective. And 99% of anxiety can be resolved when we align with what's true. And it's not until you get what's true that then the action to take becomes clear. So that action might be therapy. That action might be a couples retreat, right? That action might be taking some time apart, right? Only you know in your heart what the next action step to take is, but you can't take that action out of alignment and expect a solution or a resolution. It's only when you begin to acknowledge the truth that then those action choices will align. And so a lot of us are walking around not really knowing what we're doing, and we're doing our best, and we're practicing every day. How do we get in alignment? And so, how do you get in alignment? One of the things that I say to everybody: move your body, get outside. If you can get outside in nature, it's one of the reasons I moved to Aspen, Colorado, is because I spend a lot of time outside. I literally, it's what, April 3rd? Well, we pre-recorded this show, but I just got off the mountain with 6 inches of fresh powder on March 31st. Like, come on, welcome to spring. I live here so that I can experience the beauty of the world outside. And when I'm moving my physical body outside, I know that I'm in the right place. Last summer, living in Aspen, Colorado, I could barely hike for half an hour and I would be lethargic. I'd be exhausted. I'd have to take naps in the middle of the day. I got nervous that maybe I had a chronic fatigue something. And I'm like a body intuitive, and I'm brilliant at helping other people when their bodies begin to break down, because it's simply your body's throwing a 2-year-old temper tantrum to get your attention so that you shift your behaviors. 2-year-olds throw 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 50-year-olds throw temper tantrums to get your attention so you shift your behavior. Your body is the same way. Your body's throwing a temper tantrum and you're throwing medication at it or pharmaceuticals at it or whatever else at it. And there's nothing wrong with doing any of that. But that's not the long-term solution. The long-term solution, when your body is throwing a temper tantrum, is to let your body throw the temper tantrum and you be a witness. And then you get curious. And so in grad school, we got to practice every day witnessing our thoughts, witnessing the temper tantrums, witnessing the physical, mental, emotional breakdowns. And instead of interpreting it, taking a stab at what we think was going on, we were really encouraged to take it back, take a step back, take a wider, broader vision of the perspective of what was going on, and instead of interpret, literally name it from a witnessing perspective. Like, I'm noticing that my palms are sweaty and shaking, not I have anxiety. And so we've gotten really quick to jump to a label that I don't think is doing any of us on the planet a favor. Now, sometimes it is what feels like anxiety. And guess what? It's an energetic shift. And so most people, when they stay in the label of anxiety, they feel stuck. They feel depressed. They feel like they don't have a way out, and they're constantly trying to get a way out. Pharmaceutical might, ease the pain temporarily, but pharmaceuticals are not the solution long term. And so as your body is throwing this temper tantrum, you can go, wow, my heart is so elevated. I feel like I want to scream. My throat feels constricted. I can feel pressure in my head. It feels like this is rage or anger or upset. And then guess what? You're not labeling, oh, it's upset because. So I want to invite you, if you're listening to this and it is landing at home and it resonates with you, take a step back for a second, right? Take a step back, because if you can get to the place where you're willing to be what we call in psychology and dance movement therapy and movement therapy in general, a third party witness. So all you're doing is you're witnessing without feeling like you're in the middle of the storm. Because when you're in the middle of the storm, it's hard to be your own witness. So you got to kind of resource yourself enough, take a few breaths, maybe press some pressure points, right? Like in the middle of your collarbone, 2 inches below the middle of your collarbone are these pressure points. I don't know what they're called. I didn't formally study any massage or acupuncture. I somehow learned this. I don't remember where or when, but back in my mid 20s. And these 2 pressure points are brilliant. So if you're feeling nauseous, if you're feeling a little out of sorts, right, and you close your eyes and you take a couple really deep breaths, it can help you sort of get to a place where you're not so in the middle of the storm. So you can take a step back and begin to third party witness what you're experiencing. So my heart's beating really fast. My palms are sweaty. My feet feel heavy and hot, right? Not, oh my God, my ankles hurt. Oh my God, something's wrong with my feet. No. And when you get really good, right, you're interpreting a new language. The language of your body speaks energy. You speak however many and whatever languages you speak. And you are being asked to be a translator, right? But a translator from a witness perspective, not interpreting. There's a huge difference, huge difference. When you translate, right? Translate, oh, I can feel my head feels heavy, right? Really different than, oh my gosh, I have migraines. Right? Wow, I feel this really intense pressure and it's pressing down exactly on my temple. I wonder what that is. And so this is an invitation for you to begin to step back and recognize. And look, I went to grad school for psychology. I am an expert interpreter. And that interpretation over time has dug some pretty deep habits that no longer serve. And so the last, I don't know, 10 years of my life, I've been working really hard to undig those habits. But it wasn't until a year ago when I started to realize I was out of alignment. Those menopause symptoms were far more severe than they should have been for the way I live my life, for how I view my body and my life. And here's the deal is a woman, when she is changing hormones, guess what? 1,000 times more aware. And I don't know if you know this, but in Native American culture, women, when they were menstruating, so when they were on their moon or having their blood, they were not allowed to participate in sweat lodge ceremonies because it was believed that if a woman was inside of a sweat lodge with the shaman or with the Native American, whatever you want to call them, master, right, ceremony holder, the man, because it was almost always a man, the man would get sick if a woman was on her blood in the ceremony. And so what they would do is they would ask the women to step outside the tent and go into a separate tent or a separate place and ask them to meditate or be present with the ceremony. They just couldn't participate inside the ceremony. And years ago in my 20s, when I realized I was in the wrong relationship um, at a very young age, I got the opportunity to participate in a Native American sweat lodge. And I happened to be on my moon cycle, right? I was menstruating. And so the male Native American shaman, he was like, yeah, you can't be in the tent. And so the woman took me aside and she said, we have a separate tent for you. You are going to be in this tent while we're in ceremony. And so I sat in this tent and I will tell you, I had download after download after download. And there was I think it was like a group of 12 women. And these 12 women came in after the ceremony. We're talking like 4 or 5 hours. I was sitting Indian style, meditating with my eyes closed, breathing hard, waves of energy and information coming through. And this is long before I knew how powerful I was, long before I had given myself permission to have my gifts. And so these women came in after the ceremony and were like, "You are freaking powerful." And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "You appeared inside the sweat lodge for all of us. You were like a vision." And I'm like, "Sweet. That's pretty awesome." And so why I'm saying this is when a woman is fluctuating her hormones, so whether she is physically on her moon cycle or menstruating, or she is experiencing menopause, or she hits puberty for the first time. So, parents, please hear this. If your daughter or son is going through puberty, their level of awareness is exponentially increasing, and it's like waves of information coming at them. And guess what? They're overwhelmed and they go, "Oh my God, I don't know what to do with this information." So we put them on Xanax, we put them on Prozac, we put them on whatever medication. That's not the solution. What I think would change the world is we begin to teach them about their awareness and how their awareness comes through and what they're aware of. And parents, if you start having conversations with your children at a very young age, what are you aware of? They will begin to tell you. They will begin to tell you, and it will be life changing. My son is he's almost to the point of it's scary how aware he is when he wants to be. He has warned me on several occasions under several circumstances and experiences, and I, in my stubbornness, decided not to pay attention to what he was trying to communicate. And I got myself in a lot of trouble. And I was like, "Oh my God, my son knew. My son knew." And I ignored him. And so when we ignore our awareness and we go, "Oh, I ignored my awareness. Okay, information. I'm not going to do that again. Thank you for showing me where I'm aware. I'm aware with parking. I'm aware." Like I personally, when I think of someone, they almost always text, message, email, or call me. And I'm like, "How?" Or I see them. I'm like, "How did I know?" This morning I ended up skiing, right? So I've got my hat on. I literally came straight from the mountain, put my hat on, and my girlfriend, I was like, "I'm calling her. I hope I can ski with her." And she's like, "How did you know I was thinking about you this morning?" I was like, "Where did she go? I missed my ski buddy." And so these forms of awareness, especially during menopause. So ladies, listen up. You are awakening. And so yes, treat the symptoms, right? Treat the hormones, get hormone replacement therapy, but more than anything, because I tried it, it didn't work for me. What started to work for me is to recognize that my sense of awareness was up leveling, and the old way of allowing information to come in, of translating the information that was coming in, was no longer working. And I needed to allow myself to upgrade to a new level of information. Right? Like for those of you, when you upgrade your car, you know that old gasoline isn't the best gasoline for your car. So you got to upgrade to new gasoline. Same thing. When your physical vessel called your body goes through a hormone change, you're upgrading. And a lot of people have this perspective that menopause is the end of your life. And I am going to say it's the beginning. It is the beginning of being so tapped into how powerful you are. You just might not yet have been taught where that level of awareness or what that level of awareness is. You need a translator, or you need to teach yourself how to be your third party witness and translate and witness. And then once the translation feels like it's in alignment with the truth, then if you want, you can interpret. But I would definitely caution most of us to start to catch ourselves when our interpretation is off, because it'll be off, and 99% of the time our interpretation is off. So when you go to the doctor and your doctor isn't really sure what you have, but the closest thing to what you're describing with your symptoms, he can label it as anxiety. You're like, "Oh, great, I have anxiety." And now you've gotten used to calling your increased awareness anxiety, and you shut down the awareness. So I hope this is great information for those of you that might be going through a life shift, a transformation, a physical move. Maybe you are changing careers or shifting how you view the world. All of those things, you're evolving your awareness. It's a shift. And so the more you can give yourself space and be curious. Third party witnesses, they're curious. They look not from laser beam, I'm going to judge you, but from stepping back, sort of soft gaze, broadbanding your vision and going, wow, I notice that you're breathing really heavily. Wow, I notice that you have tears streaming down your face. Right? I notice that your smile has turned into a frown, right? And when you're doing it for yourself, I notice that my throat feels a little constricted. I notice that my heart is beating really fast, or that I have this cool breeze or chill on my palms or the backs of my hands. And so when you start to, from no point of view, witness what is occurring for you, you will become an expert translator, but it takes practice. You don't get to be an expert translator, right? Translating a language you've never translated before by not practicing, right? I had studied Spanish for 8 years, and then I found myself in the middle of Quito, Ecuador, and I thought I was fluent. And when I got to Ecuador, it was very clear I was nowhere close to being fluent, because I was fluent as long as it was somebody speaking very slow with an English gringo accent. Me llamo, right? I could translate. But when I got into actually living in Ecuador, the translation, they were speaking a million miles a minute. They had an accent. They had colloquialisms and their own dialogue. And it was like deer in headlights. And it took me 5 months to start to feel like I was getting the hang of it. And then by 12 months, I felt fluent. And so this is your invitation to begin to translate the energy your body is telling you, right? It's not going to speak to you in English or Spanish or German or Japanese. It's going to speak to you in sensations, in energies, in chills, in goosebumps, in heart palpitations, in your digestion is off. And when you go, oh, wow, I've noticed that my digestion is slower than normal, or I'm feeling like I'm full with eating just a couple of bites, that's witnessing. And when you third party witness, you will change your life. You're translating, you're practicing. And then once you practice, you're going to acknowledge, wow, you're really aware. That physical body can be aware of up to 10,000 miles around you all at once. And when you start recognizing that is your truth, oh, baby, it will change your life. I promise you. And so, for those of you listening, I want to invite you. This isn't go off your meds, right? I'm not a doctor. I just have practiced for 25 years having a conversation with the energies of our bodies And so I want to invite you to please have that conversation with yourself. Please start to like learn the language of the energy of your body. And the more you do it, the more you will make space for your awareness. So don't go off your meds, but start to have a new dialogue with yourself around anxiety. Your teenagers, if they're having anxiety, have that different conversation, because I promise you it will change the way that you look at yourself. And when you are in the driver's seat, and when you are in the offensive mode, and when you are creating your life, you won't be trying to manage stuff that feels like you're at the effect of it. This is about living, my friends, trusting your gut, going on an adventure, and never giving up your awareness and what you know for anyone. So thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next week.
Katherine is not a medical practitioner nor a licensed therapist. She has strong opinions and will express them, and truly believes that you are your best advocate for any and every area of your life. If you need medical advice, please consult your physician.